On Father's Day, my daughter sent me a strange box. Emily whispered, "Don't open it, Jack." I frowned. Why not? Look closer. My heart stopped. I didn't touch it. I acted fast. Then cops showed up. I'm Jack Thompson, a 66-year-old retired mechanic, and I thought I'd seen it all. Grease-stained engines, busted transmissions, and customers who think yelling fixes a flat tire. But nothing prepared me for Father's Day 2025, when a cardboard box turned my quiet life in Crescent Bay, Oregon, into a waking nightmare. I live with my wife, Emily, in a weathered clapboard house perched on a grassy knoll, where the Pacific Ocean churns below, its waves gnashing at the rocky shore like an angry dog. That morning, the air was thick with the briny tang of seaweed and the faint smoke of a neighbor's bonfire. I was on our front porch, nursing a black coffee in a mug that read, "World's Okayest Dad," watching the fog roll off the water like a ghost retreating at dawn. Emily was inside, fussing over her rosemary and lavender pots, her soft humming drifting through the screen door. Then a delivery truck growled up our winding dirt road, its tires spitting pebbles, a box, no return address, and a hiss that froze my blood. The driver, a kid with a backward cap, handed me a plain cardboard package about the size of a toolbox, light as a feather. "Happy Father's Day, man," he said, shoving a clipboard at me. I scrawled my name, my gut twisting. Sunday delivery? That's not cheap. Who'd shell out for that? I carried the box inside, setting it on our reclaimed wood coffee table, the one Emily and I picked out at a flea market for our 20th anniversary. The living room smelled of cedar and lemon polish, sunlight slanting through windows fogged by ocean mist. Emily glanced over, her hands dusted with potting soil. "Who's that from?" she asked, her voice curious but edged with caution, like she'd sensed the same wrongness I had. I shrugged, peering at the label. No sender, just our address in blocky print. Then I saw them, tiny holes punched in the sides, neat as pinpricks, breathing holes. My heart thudded. "Em," I said, my voice low. "Something's alive in there." A rustle came from the box, faint, like dry leaves skittering on pavement. Then a hiss, soft, deliberate, menacing. Emily's eyes widened, her fingers tightening on her apron. "Jack, don't touch it," she whispered, stepping back, her bare feet silent on the wool rug. I froze, staring at the box like it might lunge at us. Another hiss, sharper now, coiled through the air. My mind raced. Who sends a live animal to their parents on Father's Day? The answer hit me like a wrench to the chest. Claire, my daughter. My only daughter, who'd spent the last 3 years treating my retirement savings like her personal piggy bank. Last week, she'd stood in this very room, screaming about her inheritance, her face twisted with rage as she smashed a glass of Merlot onto our rug. "You're hoarding money while we're drowning," she'd yelled, her husband, Ethan, smirking from our couch like a fox in a henhouse. I'd kicked them out, told them to come back when they could talk without dollar signs in their eyes. Now this box, hissing like a warning, felt like her revenge. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and dialed 911. "There's a package on my coffee table," I told the dispatcher, my voice steadier than I felt. "Something's alive inside. It's hissing." Emily stood by the window, her silhouette framed against the gray ocean, her fingers twisting her necklace, a gift from Claire when she was 10, back when she still drew us crayon pictures of happy families. The dispatcher's voice crackled through. "Stay away from it, sir. Officers are en route." 10 minutes later, 2 cops stood in our living room, their boots tracking sand from the beach path onto our floor. Officer Rachel Carter, a wiry woman with a coastal drawl, eyed the box like it was a bomb. "Sounds like a snake," she said, pulling on gloves. "Happens sometimes. Pranks, grudges. Any idea who'd send this?" I swallowed hard, Claire's name burning in my throat, but I shook my head. "No clue," I lied. Loyalty, or maybe denial, kept my mouth shut. Animal control arrived next, a guy named Tom Reed with a weathered face and a snake hook. He worked fast, cracking open the box with a knife while we held our breath. Inside, coiled in a nest of shredded paper, was a garter snake. 2 feet of sleek green scales, harmless but creepy as hell. "Non-venomous," Tom said, sliding it into a carrier. "Someone paid good money for this, not a cheap prank." He glanced at me, waiting for an answer I wasn't ready to give. The cops left, telling us to call if we remembered anything. Emily and I stood in the quiet, the box now empty but heavy with meaning. Outside, the ocean roared, waves clawing at the cliffs, and a gull's cry pierced the air. "It's Claire, isn't it?" Emily whispered, her voice breaking. I nodded, my chest tight. "Yeah, it's her. Claire's been a storm in our lives since she married Ethan, a guy who's never held a job longer than a summer. 3 years ago, their emergencies started. Rent, car repairs, then Ethan's gambling debts, Claire's designer bags. I'd worked 43 years at the shop, wrenching bolts till my hands ached, missing barbecues and beach walks to save for our golden years. Now, Claire saw my savings as her birthright. Last week's fight was the worst yet. She'd stormed in, demanding I hand over her inheritance early. "We're broke, Dad! You're sitting on a fortune!" she'd screamed, her manicured nails flashing as she threw that glass. Ethan just lounged there, his smirk saying he knew I'd cave. I didn't. I told them to get out, to stop treating me like an ATM. Claire's parting shot was a threat to keep our grandkids, Lily and Max, from us. "You'll never see them again," she'd hissed. Now this snake felt like her way of saying, I meant it. That night, I sat in my study, the room lit by a single lamp, the ocean's rumble shaking the windows. My desk was cluttered with old invoices and a photo of Claire at 5, gap-toothed and grinning on a pier. I opened my laptop, the screen's glow harsh against the dark. Claire had access to my credit card, set up for college emergencies, now abused for her lifestyle. I logged into our bank, my fingers steady despite the betrayal clawing at my gut. A charge from Reptile Haven, $127.50, 3 weeks ago, right after our fight. My blood boiled. She'd planned this, paid for it with my own money. I clicked Manage Users, my cursor hovering over Remove. 30 years of bailing her out, rent, debts, her kids' school fees, flashed through my mind. Enough. I hit Confirm. Claire's access was gone. I canceled her car payments, her gym membership, the rent I'd been covering. I changed every PIN to digits tied to my wedding with Emily, not Claire's schemes. Each click was a brick in a wall I should have built years ago. Emily stood in the doorway, her shadow soft against the cedar paneling. "You sure about this, Jack?" she asked, her voice a mix of fear and resolve. I looked at her, the woman who'd stood by me through 38 years of late nights and tight budgets. "I'm done being her bank," I said. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the wind chimes Emily hung last summer. The ocean's waves pounded the shore, relentless, like the truth I couldn't ignore. My daughter had sent me a snake to scare me into submission. But I wasn't the same pushover dad anymore. Tomorrow, Claire would find out her credit card was dead, her safety net cut. She'd come for me, I knew it. Furious, desperate, maybe with Ethan in tow, his smirk sharper than ever. Let them come. I'd be ready. The ocean kept roaring, and I leaned back in my chair, the weight of 30 years lifting, replaced by something new: control. What would Claire do when she realized her game was over? I didn't know, but the fight was just beginning. The morning after Claire and Ethan's tires screeched out of our driveway, I woke to the kind of quiet that feels too good to last. The Pacific Ocean glittered beyond our Crescent Bay home, its waves whispering secrets against the rocky shore. I sat on the porch, coffee steaming in my world's okayest dad mug, the air sharp with salt and pine. Emily was inside, her soft footsteps padding across the kitchen as she arranged her succulents, their spiky leaves catching the dawn light. For the first time in years, no urgent texts from Claire lit up my phone, no demands for cash to fix her latest crisis. The restraining order and will changes were in motion, and I felt a strange lightness, like I'd finally dropped a toolbox I'd been carrying for decades. But deep down, I knew Claire wouldn't go quietly. She never did. By 8 a.m., my phone buzzed. Claire's name flashed on the screen, and my stomach tightened. I let it ring, watching a fishing boat bob on the horizon, its silhouette small against the vast gray sea. "You going to answer?" Emily called from the kitchen, her voice steady but laced with worry. I shook my head, setting the phone face down on the wicker table. "Not yet," I said. The buzzing stopped, then started again. 3 calls in 10 minutes, each one a needle in my calm. Then a text. "Dad, we need to talk. You're making a huge mistake." No apology, no mention of the snake, just that same entitled tone. I deleted it, my fingers steady but my heart racing. Emily appeared at the screen door, her hands dusted with potting soil. "She's not going to stop, Jack," she said quietly, her eyes searching mine. I nodded, the ocean's rhythm grounding me. "I know. That's why we Dong Nai Moin Hat were meeting Sarah today." Sarah Collins's office sat above the marina, the harbor's fishing boats swaying below like dancers in the wind. The air smelled of diesel and salt, and seagulls perched on pilings, their cries sharp against the clatter of rigging. Sarah's desk was piled with legal files, her window overlooking the water. She listened as I recounted the snake incident, the argument, and Ethan's threats, her pen moving fast across a notepad. "This is serious, Jack," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Harassment, intimidation, possibly animal cruelty. We can make the restraining order airtight." I explained my plan to redirect our savings into a trust for Lily and Max, ensuring Claire and Ethan couldn't touch it. Sarah's eyes softened. "Smart move. An independent trustee will keep it safe for their education." She drafted the will and restraining order on the spot, promising delivery within 48 hours. I left her office feeling lighter, the weight of Claire's betrayal shifting to resolve. Outside, the ocean breeze carried a chill, and I drove home, the road winding past cedar groves and tide pools shimmering under the noon sun. That evening, Emily and I sat at our kitchen table, the sunset painting the sky pink and gold over the Pacific. The house smelled of rosemary and the lemon chicken Emily had made, a rare treat since we'd been eating light to save money. "You think she'll fight the restraining order?" Emily asked, her fork pausing over her plate. I sipped my coffee, the mug warm against my palms. "She might try," I said. "But Sarah says it's solid. Any contact now is a criminal matter." Emily's shoulders relaxed, but her eyes stayed worried. "And the kids?" she whispered. I reached for her hand, her skin soft but calloused from gardening. Lily and Max are protected. The trust is locked tight. Claire can't touch it. We ate in silence, the ocean's distant roar a steady reminder of the world beyond our walls. I knew Emily was thinking of Claire, of the little girl who'd once run barefoot through the sand with us, chasing crabs. That girl was gone, replaced by someone who'd sent a snake to scare her own father. But the why of it, that was the real wound. The next morning, I was on the porch, scanning the local paper for news of the Marina Festival, when my phone buzzed again. Another text from Claire. "You can't do this to us. Call me." Now I stared at the words, my jaw tight. No denial, no remorse, just demands. I deleted it, my eyes drifting to the ocean, where a lone sailboat cut through the waves. I'd spent 43 years building a life for my family, and Claire thought she could bully me into submission. Not anymore. I called Sarah to confirm the restraining order's delivery. "It's done," she said. "Served this morning. They're legally barred from contact." I thanked her, hung up, and leaned back in my chair, the porch creaking under my weight. The gulls wheeled overhead, their cries like laughter at the mess my family had become. 2 days later, the quiet broke. I was in the garage tinkering with an old carburetor when Emily rushed in, her face pale. "Jack, there's a letter." From Claire. My hands froze on the wrench. The garage smelled of oil and sawdust, the air cool with morning mist. I followed her inside, where a plain envelope sat on the kitchen counter, our address scrawled in Claire's sharp handwriting. My gut told me this wasn't a peace offering. I opened it, pulling out a single sheet of paper. Her words were a gut punch. "You think a restraining order stops family? You're wrong. I know what you care about most. Watch your back, Dad." Emily's hand flew to her mouth. "Jack, she wouldn't..." Her voice trailed off, fear in her eyes. I crumpled the letter, my blood boiling. "She's bluffing," I said, but doubt gnawed at me. Claire's snake wasn't a bluff. What was she planning now? I called Sarah immediately. "Threatening letter," I said, reading her the note. "Direct violation of the restraining order." Sarah's voice was all business. "That's actionable. I'm notifying the police. Keep it safe, and don't respond." I hung up, my hands shaking, not with fear, but with a rage I hadn't felt in years. Claire wasn't just desperate, she was dangerous. Emily sat at the table, her fingers twisting a dish towel. "What if she comes after the kids?" she whispered. I knelt beside her, taking her hands. "The trust is ironclad. Lily and Max are safe. She can't touch their future." Emily nodded, but her eyes glistened with unshed tears. We'd raised Claire to be better than this. Where had we gone wrong? That afternoon, I drove to the Crescent Bay police station, the letter in a plastic bag. The town was alive with tourists, their surveillance camera trailers buzzing down the boardwalk, the smell of fried clams and saltwater taffy thick in the air. Officer Carter took the letter, her face grim. "This is serious, Mr. Thompson," she said, slipping it into an evidence bag. "We'll bring her in for questioning." I nodded, my throat tight. "She's my daughter," I said, the words bitter. Carter's eyes softened. "Family disputes are tough. We'll handle it." I drove home through the winding coastal roads, the ocean sparkling under a high sun, my mind a storm of guilt and resolve. I'd protected my family, but at what cost? The next day, I was on the porch when a black SUV rolled up the driveway, its tinted windows gleaming like a predator's eyes. Claire and Ethan stepped out, her face a mask of fury, his a twisted smirk. My heart pounded, but I stood tall, the ocean breeze cool against my skin. "You're violating the restraining order," I said, my voice steady. Claire laughed, sharp and cold. "You think a piece of paper stops me? I want what's mine." Ethan leaned against the SUV, his arms crossed. "You're making this harder than it needs to be, Jack." I stepped forward, my fists clenched. "Get off my property, or I call the cops." Claire's eyes glittered with malice. "You'll regret this," she hissed, pulling out her phone. "I've got pictures. You and Emily on the beach. Your garage wide open at night. You're not as safe as you think." My blood ran cold. She'd been watching us. Emily appeared behind Gao's show system, at the door, her hand on my arm. "Jack, call the police," she said. "They're not allowed in here." I opened the door, my voice calm but firm. "And tell them about the letter." They froze, Claire's face paling, Ethan's smirk fading. "You wouldn't," Claire said. "You're bluffing." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers. "Test me." They drove off, the SUV's engine roaring. Emily squeezed my hand, her face pale. "What now?" she whispered. I pulled her close, the ocean's roar in system, in my chest, the weight of it all settling in. "I'm not bluffing," I said, my voice low but steady. "She's desperate. She's dangerous." Emily stepped back, her eyes wide with fear. "She's not going to stop, Jack." I took a deep breath, the anger draining from my face. "She's unhinged." I nodded, my jaw tight. "We'll get through this."